Salute!
Se te metti le mattonelle qui dietro.
Buongiorno amore, buongiorno, buongiorno sì. Oh che bello il sole, eh? Che bello, bello caldo. Good afternoon. How is your weekend? We have friends coming around, and the first thing I do when I think that maybe there might be friends coming around is get started on the dessert, because generally desserts are always a little bit better made a couple of days in advance, whereas the savory stuff I can do last minute. So the first thing I do is often I'll do a tart. I think we're probably going to have some sort of barbecue. We've been doing a lot of barbecues actually, just with my parents. We did bistecca fiorentina, which is that big thick steak, which Guido loves to do on the barbecue. And then the other day we did prawns on the barbecue, and then another day we did some salmon and fish. It's just such beautiful weather during the day, so we thought, why not cook outside, which is always lovely. And then we're also cooking on the barbecue all our vegetables, which are still coming from the vegetable garden. Do you remember when we planted this tree when Brian came? No, so it was last August.
So I think it was July. So we planted them probably in June. Look how many lemons it produced. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Can you get one for me for the fish?
Sure. Which one would you like?
Whichever one feels softest.
I think these two are too close to each other, so I would get this one. Right. Here we go.
Grazie, amore. We also celebrated my father's birthday, 78 years old this year.
Happy boy? Sorry about bashing you on the head.
My favorite job.
Taste of the sea. So salty.
Yeah.
We actually
ate. 78!
I'm feeling great. Yay!
I'm preparing a lemon tart, which I think if you have a very salty lunch, I think it's really nice to just cut through that saltiness with a very refreshing dessert. But it's not sort of gelato weather, So it's sort of between, we're in between sort of steaming pudding weather and gelato weather. So I think a nice, refreshing, clean lemon tart is the perfect dessert for this type of climate. So I'm just going to start with 1.5 cups of flour. And the thing is, these friends are Italian, and they're actually Florentine. And as Guido always says, it's difficult anywhere in Italy to get Italians, a lot of Italians, let's say those who live in cities, to commit to seeing each other, because they always want to leave their schedule, they're open for a better offer, which sounds terrible, but it's the way that it is. It's the way that it can be. I'm sure there will be Italians who say, oh, we're not like that, but I experienced it certainly in Rome. Everyone does things last minute, and it can make life really fun because you just never know where a day or a night is going to take you, because people just decide on things at the last minute. They say, let's go out, or let's keep going, and let's go onto someone's boat, and let's go sailing down there, and let's have lunch in this anchorage, and it's all very last minute, and it does make you feel like you're in a film, because things just start happening with very little planning, and that seems to be the way Guido loves to live as well. He loves just inviting people at the last minute, or just deciding on a whim to go somewhere. However, as the person who caters for the social things, I like to have a little bit of warning in advance, because then it just makes your life so much more calm as a host, because you can relax and you've got something done which has been prepared the day before. And it's a funny, oh, what's that? Is that a bit of rosemary in the flour? Ah, yes. It sounds quite annoying, but basically, for example, we rang these friends up and we said, oh, come over for lunch, and they said, oh yeah, maybe we will. So you don't really know what's going to happen, and they can often come up with a little bugia bianca, a white lie, to say, oh no, we're sorry, we can't end up coming. But nobody really, well, not often. They don't often get offended, because it's sort of just accepted that people will not always come through on plans that you've made. So to this, I'm just going to add some icing sugar, or I think North Americans call it powdered sugar. Let me see, this is a tablespoon. Yeah, just add 3 tablespoons. You could use caster sugar, like a fine sugar, if you didn't have icing sugar. 2, 3. Okay. And so much is happening upstairs in the bathroom. I'm very excited. It's been such a long time coming, but hopefully, and I'll just take off my ring. So hopefully we're almost there. They're putting down the floor, which I will show you this episode, and putting up the tiles that I had handmade in Sicily. Watching this man lay the jigsaw puzzle of hexagonal terracotta was like watching an artist. The walls in this house are rarely ever straight. The terracotta is all made by hand, so they're all uneven, and consequently he had to carefully measure and painstakingly cut each piece perfectly to fit into every alcove and curve and corner. Quindi bisogna prima capire dove vanno tutti...
Sì, perché c'è tutti i pezzi, se metto la colla poi
Sì, sì.
diventa un problema.
Sì.
Prima li preparo e poi dopo li incollo.
Wow. Ah, ma che soddisfazione vedere tutto quel pezzo. Quindi dopo, per proteggere il cotto, dovrei usare la carta vetrata e poi...
Un po' di carta vetrata per levare tutte le imperfezioni,
Sì,
tutti questi,
sì.
ma giusto leggera leggera. Poi
Sì.
un trattamento in base a come uno lo vuole, più chiaro, più scuro.
Ah, ok.
Il trattamento è una cosa un po' nel senso particolare che si può farlo più chiaro, più scuro.
Perché sul pavimento giù io ho messo olio di lino.
Olio di lino?
Sì.
Sì, va bene.
And the builders also came another day and put the travertine on the bath and shower.
I just like to cut the butter into little cubes. Hang on, I'll just mix through the icing sugar, and then this part, everyone will. It sounds a bit boastful, but often I get compliments about my tarts and particularly about the pastry, the short crust pastry. And I really believe it's because when you do it by hand, it's just such a better texture, a better result. Sort of just stays together. It's not crumbly, but it's very buttery and it feels really lovely in your mouth. Not too dry. Okay, so I've just sort of crushed up some of the sugar, which was clumping a little bit. Now we can add in the butter, about 90 grams of butter. And now we'll just have a little chat while I sort of put all of this together. I've made these before, so I've told you before, but I just sort of like to get the butter and squeeze it between my fingertips and try and bring all the flour in and smush it together with the butter so that it resembles fine breadcrumbs, as they always say in the recipe. So how is your Valentine's Day? I don't know if you saw the video I did last week where I had the melting chocolate cakes, which was an idea for a romantic dessert. We have been, what have we been doing? Gosh, it's just been such warm weather. I've been going for big long walks with Gianfranco, with the baby, and because the carrier, the marsupial they call it in Italian, marsupio, it just hurts my back. So I end up just carrying him. I just carry him in my arms, and I carry him for an hour and a half on a walk. Guido is still taking a little bit of arm twisting to get him into any even light exercise, although he does talk about martedì grasso, which is Fat Tuesday, and he says I can be fat until Fat Tuesday, and then I can change my ways and get into some healthy habits. So we shall see. But certainly the weather has been a wonderful incentive to get outside. It's been so warm, and we're just thinking, gosh, how lovely it's going to be, or rather how boiling hot it's going to be in summer. And so we're definitely going to make use of the pool if they ever finish it. So we've got to get on top of that as well. This horrible thing happened in Italy a couple of weeks ago. I thought I'd just share it with you because so many of you saw my birth story video and you left such lovely comments, and a lot of you said, oh, you listening to what happened to me, you couldn't watch the whole thing because it made you too sad. basically, if you haven't seen it, I just had some, well, not very nice treatment or during my contractions, and then afterwards when I was for 4 or 5 days in hospital, and it was really, yeah, it was pretty awful. My actual birth was lovely, and it was fast, and it was what I wanted it to be. So, but on either end of the actual birth, it was just such a battle against these horrible nurses who were just really rude and cruel, actually, considering that I was so weak, and they couldn't take the balloon that they put inside me out to stop the hemorrhaging. They couldn't take it out for days, so I was told not to eat or drink anything. So I was already so weak, and I had all these blood tubes in me for blood transfusions, and they wouldn't help me with my baby. They just said, it's your responsibility, and then they make you feel bad and call you a bad mother for not picking up your baby. But I was picking him up, and then all my I just had so much trouble. Anyway, the point is that I wondered whether it was just me, and then we were talking to people, and then one of you actually commented and said, oh, it's called violenza ostetrica. So there's actually a term for it, like these obstetricians who are just so horrible initially and are on this power trip and seem to like to just torment and harass and condescend these women who have just come out of one of the hardest experiences of their life, obviously, and this horrible thing happened a couple of weeks ago in Italy, in Rome, in this hospital. This poor woman, she's similar to me. She had tubes in her and everything, and she was really weak after a 17-hour labor. And then she was so tired, and she kept asking the nurses, "Can you just for help?" And they wouldn't. And then. And of course, you're not allowed to have. This is the other thing. In Italy, they don't allow for COVID partners or anyone from your family to come in for longer than there's just like a 1 hour sort of visitor's hour or something. But they can't come see you at night. They can't, and so you're really all alone. And it's so horrible. And this poor woman, she was really tired, and she kept asking for help, and nobody would help her. And then she was breastfeeding, and she fell asleep and accidentally suffocated her baby, and it died. And this is just, it's just horrific. It's so horrific. I felt the whole country was up in arms about it, and everyone discussing it, because so many more women, Italian women, came forward and said the same thing happened to me, the same treatment. Obviously it didn't end in death, but some people have said, well, is this what it takes to get their attention for these hospitals to take ownership? And the hospital said, oh, they're still saying, oh, it's not our fault. But it's just disgusting, and you think, gosh, can you imagine? Like, you go through all of that, carrying that baby, and who knows even what it takes to get pregnant these days. A lot of people struggle with infertility, and then you carry that child for 9 months, and then you go through this really, really painful labor, and then you have this beautiful creature in your arms, and then you wake up and you find that you've accidentally suffocated it through, and you would live with the guilt, and yet she should not feel any guilt, because the poor thing, it was not her fault. I mean, I was in that position myself, and I was so scared. I remember texting my mother and Guido saying, I'm so scared I'm going to fall asleep. And either he'll be choking, as he was, because he was choking at some point, and I couldn't reach him because I was bedridden and they wouldn't let me get up. Or if I was feeding him and I fell asleep, and because I hadn't slept for 5-6 days, not anything, like nothing, because I couldn't sleep all through the night. They were coming in, and they had to put more tubes in my arms. So it was just horrible. And this poor woman, I can't even imagine. So, yeah, it just because a lot of you were asking if I'd made a formal complaint, and we were just sort of talking and with different people and gathering, with friends and talking about sort of organizing some sort of group thing so that it wasn't just me, because we had so many friends who had a similar experience in other hospitals as well. And but now the whole country, I guess, is putting the spotlight on these hospitals and saying, you know, what is going on and why are these people who seem to hate mothers or just have very little empathy, why, or you know, even if they're overworked, I mean, they're just, it's more than that. It's because people can be overworked and still just look at you weary but have a kind disposition, and these women just don't. And I can still remember their faces and just how mean they were. And I just think, gosh, if I made a formal complaint, who knows what they would do. But I have to do it, as many of you said, I have to do it for other women, because if I think about other women going through what I went through, oh, it just makes me so sad. And so I'm definitely going to do it. We're just trying to work out the best approach. Okay, back to our pastry. So I've worked all this now. It's looking lovely and even. And now I just want to add 2 egg yolks. So I'll just put the whites into here for another recipe. And if you want, you can add some water, but I always like to wait before I add the water, because you don't want it to be too hydrated. Just want to see if perhaps the egg yolks can take care of the moisture on their own. Now for the bathroom, we have the toilet and bidet. So the plumber is hopefully coming next week from Florence. And he will be able to give us some hot water down here, because we haven't had hot water down here. So it's felt like a very traditional kitchen, because we just have this big giant teapot over the fireplace here, and we just keep that on there with water, so that it's heating up, so that we can when we need to wash pots and things, we have hot water, or at least tepid water. You see, that's pretty much, see, when I grab it now, it sort of all comes together, and it's almost completely sufficient with the 2 egg yolks without needing water. I'm not sure whether I might, see, now I leave this to rest for an hour, so just seeing if it will come together without water. Maybe it will. Maybe I'll just add a teaspoon. Okay, there we go. And then into this, I'm just going to add some cream and lemons and sugar and perhaps some vanilla, and then I will cook that. Some people like to par bake their pastry, but I don't, because I just find that then it gets overcooked. If you make it thin enough, it tends to cook. Well, my recipe, it always tends to cook through quite well just by cooking it at the same time as the filling. Oh, look at that. It's perfect. Beautiful. I've got to think of some antipasti that I can do. Trying to think what I can prepare ahead of time, although, to be honest, the antipasti are often best prepared in the morning that your guests are coming. So I'm struggling still to think properly, because I get so little sleep at nights. It's sort of, I'm used to it now, but sort of 4 months of just no longer than an hour and a half, sleeping no longer than an hour and a half at a time. Oh, look at that, that's so smooth and perfect. I'll just give you a close-up so that you can see. So now I'm just going to put this into this plastic bag so it's airtight, and I'll keep that in the fridge. It doesn't You could roll it out now if you were short on time, but find that it works a little bit better if you just wait even an hour. There we go.
No, alzare proprio il disegno per essere più...
no, vabbè, sì, quello lì...
Che c'è questo pezzettino e basta sopra, come...
sì, però se te metti altre 4 mattonelle e poi ci metti lo specchio...
Non ha fatto nulla.
Oh, complimenti!
Grazie.
Bellissimo! Ciao!
Qui la Bougainville sta resistendo,
Sì,
perché ancora non è venuto il super freddo,
sì.
però appena viene una ventata fredda will die.
E quindi qua è piantato l'edera?
Sì, qui dove si era messo il kiwi e l'edera l'anno scorso che sono morti, ce l'ho ripiantati.
Ok.
Mandorlo è sopravvissuto, che è di più di ciò che hanno fatto tutti gli altri, perché
Sì.
qui abbiamo piantato, c'era un susino lì che è morto,
Sì.
il mandorlo è sopravvissuto, ho fatto anche 2 mandorle, qui c'era un'edera che è morta, lì c'era un kiwi che è morto.
Gosh, look at the fig tree. It's funny to think how it's so bushy with and heavy with fruit and leaves and...
È bello potente, sì. It's early to... Vita americana.
Chioma colorata.
Quindi in teoria, se funziona, l'autunno dovrebbe essere tutto rosso.
Ok, bellissimo.
Sì, tra qualche anno.
Sì.
Andiamo a vedere i kiwi. Come with me. L'ho messi i kiwi.
Ah, qua.
In modo tale che almeno se funziona
Sì,
rampica tutto lì c'è.
Amore, ormai sono passati 2 anni da quando abbiamo iniziato il polaio, no?
Sì, 1 anno e mezzo.
Come 1 anno e mezzo? Abbiamo cominciato gennaio-febbraio, no? Sorry, I know it's depressing, but we'll get there.
Questo non so se va potato. It looks very rare.
Sì,
Very bushy.
sì.
Lo smarino per non ce la fa più. Vedi col caldo?
See, look at all the oranges.
Yeah, but problem is that when it doesn't get cold, all the bugs, look,
Sì.
quindi these are all caterpillars that probably during summer get eaten by swallows and stuff like that.
Sì.
And all the insects either have migrated and the insects are happy with this heat and look, they've eaten everything.
Sì. This is all sage here. Guido's been pruning these olive trees. He's done all this morning. Do you have a particular method?
No, I'm not an expert. I'm just doing my best.
You did a great job last year, though. No?
It's a very difficult thing to do because you have to understand which branches need to be cut off and which need to go on, which will produce fruits in 2 years. Difficult.
Isn't the idea to sort of cut from the middle to shape them sort of like a bowl, no?
Definitely you need to empty all the parts that's the easy way.
Yeah.
So you can prune, there's a vaso, insomma, like the basin method,
Yeah, like a pot.
like a pot. And so all this stuff here that grows inside the pot, these stuff that go upwards need to be all cut.
Okay. But it seems to be a job that you like, though. It calms you, no?
Definitely it's like, come si dice, it's gardening, so
Yeah.
it's a form of gardening, so yeah, it's definitely something that then it's fun to see how you prune them 1 year in a certain way and then you see what happens.
Yesterday, Guido was sort of procrastinating with some office work, and so he just went out and pruned an olive tree.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's good therapy.
It's definitely you stay in the fresh air.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, my father and I worked on cutting some old doors to fit them onto the bathroom shelves.
No, it doesn't work.
A coat of varnish. The original doors had no handles, just a lock, which we removed. And then my father chiseled an olive tree branch to fit it into the hole. And then I set off into the barn to hunt for something I could use for handles. Eventually, in a corner, I found some old broken shutters with some ornate handles, which I thought would be perfect.
Io oggi non ho fatto nulla perché siamo andati
A fare il prelievo.
a fare il prelievo. Siamo andati tutti e tre.
And finally, the terracotta was all laid, the Sicilian tiles were up, and it's all starting to feel very, very beautiful.
Just love this little step here of travertine to get into the shower as well. Ah, it's going to be so beautiful. Look at the workmanship. I mean, you may not notice it, but look, this piece here, which is not symmetrical, it's just, and this little tiny little piece here and here, he cut out all those little pieces just so that he can work in with the walls, which are not straight. There's very few straight lines, and then also to sort of deal with these hexagonal tiles, which make things even more complicated. But in the end, it just looks like it's been here for 100 years. Isn't it beautiful? It's really taking shape now, isn't it? I mean, we've still got a lot to do, but I just feel that now you can get an idea of how it's going to be. In about 10 minutes time, the plumbers should be arriving from Florence, and they're going to put in all the brass taps everywhere and install the toilet and the bidet. Guido believes we could be having a bath by this evening. I don't know if that's actually true, but I just want to thank you all for watching, for subscribing, and a big thank you to my patrons who support my work and believe in this channel and what I like to share with the world. I hope to give you an update next week because there will be lots of changes. We're also transplanting olive trees today, so big day, and my parents are leaving, which is very sad. I'm going to be so emotional. We're all so sad, but yeah, has to happen. They're going back for 6 months. I just took Gianfranco down to my parents, and my mother started crying because it's just, when you be away from a child, a baby at that age for 6 months, he's going to have changed so much, and we're already so teary. But yeah, hopefully they can come back after 6 months, so we'll see. I'm trying to work out this visa situation, which is not easy, but thank you very much for watching. Do give this video a like if you liked it, and I will see you next week. Alla prossima. Ciao.